Welcome to the Food Scene, an instructional web series on how to make some delicious dishes. This is episode 5, and this time we're doing dessert. To be more specific, we're doing cheesecake. Alright, let's get started by running down the ingredients. Okay, so here are our ingredients. You're going to need cream cheese, eggs, sour cream, butter, salt, vanilla extract, graham crackers, and sugar, of course. And that's it, guys. That's all you need. So, moving on. Some other quick notes here. Obviously, always wash your hands. Make sure your counters are clean. Make sure before you start using any vegetables that you are washing them. I am not showing these things in the video because I feel that would be sort of monotonous. But yes, always do that. Also, for any of you who want suggested amounts for the ingredients, I will leave those amounts in the video description below. Back to the food scene. Okay, so first step, preheat your oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. Then take your graham crackers for the crust, put them into a food processor. I wonder if you could blend these. I'm not sure. I've never tried blending graham crackers, but I'm using a food processor here. Then we're gonna process said graham crackers, grind them up, and you're gonna want it to be very fine. You don't want big chunks of graham cracker in there. And that'll sort of be the base for the crust of the cheesecake. Okay, next you're gonna microwave some of the butter. It's a rare shot of me. I'm actually in the shot. Just want your butter to melt. You could do it over the stove too if you wanted to. And now here's the graham cracker that we had previously. Unfortunately, I had some big chunks in there, which I said to avoid. And yeah, just gonna pick those out. And as you just heard me say, it's captured in some of the ambient sounds. So there we're adding some salt, sugar, of course, and the melted butter. And now we're just gonna stir that up. Make sure it mixes really well. Wow, I'm breathing really hard. I wonder, I must have been stressing out. Dessert always stresses me out. Let's fast forward through some of this. And there you go. There's your mix for the crust. And we're gonna put this in the pan. Quick thing I forgot to mention, you're going to need a springform pan for this cheesecake. It'll make it a lot easier to get out instead of trying to cut it out of a normal pan. So highly recommend it if you can get your hands on one. Okay, now back to the food scene. So before you add the crust, you're going to want to butter the pan. So here I am buttering the springform pan. And obviously, with buttering, you want to make sure you're buttering up the sides as well, since we're going to try to move the crust upwards a little bit, so it comes out nice and even with the slices of the cheesecake. It's not just going to be in the bottom of the pan. So here's our crust in our buttered springform pan. And I'm taking the crust and sort of pressing it down against the pan. And I don't know why I'm doing it this way, because honestly, I should have just dumped it all in. This is kind of insane, the way I'm trying to do it right now. Yep, there it goes. There is common sense kicking in. Yeah, so you can't just dump it all in and then just build it up that way. So yeah, here we are trying to build the crust right now. Make sure it's pressing up against the sides of the springform pan. It's going to be a little tricky to work with just because it's very light and very soft, very granular, and it'll fall apart a little bit if you're too rough with it. So you got to be kind of gentle and delicate, and here I am doing my best to work the crust and make sure it sort of is angled upward. You're looking for about an inch or so up along the pan, and you want it to be very even. As you can see, I'm doing here. Dessert is extremely precise, which is why it stresses me out so much. there's less room for improvisation and error with dessert, whereas with dinner you have a lot of room for those things. So, but yeah, here's the crust, and once we got that, while we work on the batter, we can put it in the fridge. Don't leave it in there for more than a couple hours, but for now it's fine. All right, here's our cream cheese. So the cream cheese is gonna be the main part of the batter, obviously, since we're doing cheesecake. And we're looking for the cream cheese to get fairly soft, and you want sort of, I don't know what word I'm looking for exactly, but fluffy, I guess. You want it to be fluffy with like sort of fluffy tops. Yeah, that's what we're looking for. Something to note, I didn't do it and got away with it, luckily, but be sure you let your cream cheese sit out for a little bit before you start trying to create the batter, because if you don't, then it gets a little lumpy, and if you're like me, you get incredibly stressed out. So, word to the wise. Now, back to the food scene. Okay, so here we are, just still uh, whipping the cream cheese into shape. Ha 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 ha. It's a terrible joke. I mean, humor's subjective, but if I'm being a little self-critical there, that was pretty bad. So yeah, we're whipping the cream cheese. I'm using a standing mixer right here. Thankfully, I'm working in a kitchen that has one, which is awesome. And yeah, let's just fast forward a little bit. And yeah, you just want to make sure that the cream cheese doesn't get stuck on it, and that you're still managing to whip all of it. And you're going to want to kind of do this over medium speed on your mixer if you're using a hand mixer. If you're doing this by hand, I mean, good luck to you. That's pretty impressive. All right, so now we're going to incorporate the eggs. We're incorporating each egg one at a time into the cream cheese mixture once we have that sort of fluffy texture that we're looking for from the cream cheese. And like I mentioned earlier, I forgot to let my cream cheese sit out at room temperature for a little while, so this is why the batter is lumpy. And yeah, the eggs aren't incorporating that great right now. So think of this as a what to do / a what not to do. I mean, thankfully the cheesecake turned out fine, and the cream cheese sort of cooked down when it baked, but I could have gotten some really unfortunate textures there if I hadn't been so lucky. So remember to let your cream cheese sit out for a little bit so it can warm up, and it'll be a much easier product to work with. And so yeah, here we are incorporating the egg, and you're going to do this 4 times for the 4 eggs. I'm not going to show all of that, but yeah, one at a time, making sure each egg is incorporating each time. And so yeah, here it is, the stand mixer. And yeah, here's the batter when it's a little closer to being finished. I'm sort of scraping down the sides, making sure that everything's incorporating well. And you can sort of tell that it's a little lumpy, and that's not what you want, but I got away with it, thankfully. And so let's move on. Okay, so here's our crust from earlier, which we took out of the fridge. We're pouring the batter in. And yeah, God, it's so lumpy, but thankfully it worked out. Make sure you have a baking pan with sides underneath your springform pan to catch any of the drips. I mean, I didn't have any, but you might. And then I'm just getting the rest of the cheesecake batter out of the mixing bowl and sort of spreading it around a little bit, making sure that it's as even as I can get it. And yeah, there it is. The cheese. Oh, no, never mind, not done. Still getting some out. So there's what's gonna. Let's try that again. That's what's gonna go into the oven. Remember that from earlier when we preheated the oven? So yeah, here you go. I always thought it was weird how a lot of cookbooks said preheat the oven and that's sort of the first step, but I feel like you can kind of do that maybe mid-process. You don't have to do that right at the beginning. But yeah, so there it is. going into the oven, and that's gonna bake for about 40 minutes or so. Okay, so next step, while that's baking in the oven, is the sour cream topping for the cheesecake. So here's the sour cream, taking that out. This is really nice because it just adds an extra little bit of sweetness to the dish, but not like cloyingly sweet, just a nice little different flavor profile. So you get a couple of different flavors there. There's some sugar, and then I'm getting the vanilla extract right now, just gonna go into the topping. Taking quite a bit of time here with the vanilla extract, but like I said, dessert is very precise, so you want to make sure you're not putting too much in. And then we're just going to mix up the topping, make sure everything's incorporating well. I realize I use the word incorporate a lot for cooking, but it's just a great word, you know? I mean, it's exactly what I mean. Like, everything's sort of just synergizing. Yeah, here we go. Cream cheese topping, continuing to work that. Yeah, just make sure everything sort of mixes together well. And remember that some time has passed now. Okay, so we're going to take the cake that's been baking for 45 minutes out of the oven. And you want the center to still be a little wobbly, just slightly. Here's the sour cream topping. I realize towards the back half of that last clip I said cream cheese topping. It is sour cream by mistake. I'm sorry. And yeah, we're just getting big globs of it and putting it along the edges of the cheesecake. And we're going to sort of spread that over the entirety of the cheesecake. At first, when you do the sour cream topping, it's going to seem like a lot. You're like, wow, this is a lot of sour cream. Like, I don't think I can fit all this on. And I had the same impulse, but you can. Like, it'll all fit. And you just spread it as evenly as you can once you get it done. And yeah, it's coming together nicely. I really enjoy this cheesecake because it's sweet, but it's not overly sweet. And it's pretty simple, all things considered. You know, there's not like 5,000 ingredients in it. It's just a few things. And yeah, here you can see me spreading the topping over the cake. And yeah, it's looking real nice. Well, this is actually going to go back in the oven for a little bit. It's going to bake about 10 minutes more or so. Maybe 10 to 15 minutes, depending on the heat of your oven. Everyone's oven is different, so. Okay, so here's the oven again. Putting the cake back in the oven. Now that we've topped it with some of that sour cream. It's really more of a topping than a frosting. I was about to say frosting, but it's more of a topping. Back in it goes for about 10 minutes. Then we're going to take it out after it's done cooking. From here, we're going to want to run a knife lightly along the edge of the cake so it loosens up. And then after that, we're going to let it set until it's cooled down completely. So that'll be quite a while. No specified time limit, just until it's had some time to cool down. And here's the cake after it's cooled down. Then we're going to put some aluminum foil over it. And put it in the fridge for a minimum of 6 hours. But if you want the cake to set a little more, I would leave it in even longer. You could leave it in the entire night if you wanted to. And here's the cake after it's been refrigerated for a while. Taking it out of the springform pan. Comes out real nice, super easy. And yeah, there's the finished product. Slice of the cheesecake. Well, thanks everyone who stuck around and tolerated my voice for these 15 minutes or so. This was episode 5. Yeah, like I said, that's this episode's dish. Be on the lookout for more episodes. Like and subscribe if you want. I hope these dishes find you well at any time.